Hey everybody, this is Bill. I'm the salty old Marine. Let's talk a little bit about buddy letters. What is a buddy letter and how does it help you with your VA disability claim? Okay, let's dig in. First of all, a buddy letter is simply a lay statement. That is to say, it's a statement that is not based on medical evidence. The person making a lay statement is a lay person. They are not a doctor. They are not a lawyer. They're not a specialist of any kind. They're not qualified to make any kind of diagnosis, but that's okay. They're fully qualified, according to the VA, to talk about what they see and hear and experience with regard to your VA claim. So that can be very important. Let's give an example. Let's say that you suffered from migraines while you were in the military. However, like many of us, you did not go on sick call. There is no record of you being diagnosed with migraines. However, you complained about your headaches quite often and loudly to everybody who would listen. And as it turns out, you're still in contact with a couple of your old friends. If they are willing to simply write a letter on your behalf, that can be gold to the VA. So what goes into a buddy letter? Well, your friend, your buddy, the person who served with you, the person who has personal knowledge of what you're actually claiming, in this case, say migraines, right? That person's going to say who they are. They're going to say how they know you. They're going to give the time, date, and location where they saw and observed and experienced you complaining, for example, about your horrible headaches and what you did about them, like you downed bottles of Motrin, Ranger candy and whatever else, right? So you did all the things, and they saw that and they heard that, and they're competent to report on that, right? So they just write that down and they sign it and date it, and they can give it to you, and you can send it in with your claim. That's a buddy letter. It can be notarized. It probably should be notarized. There's an official VA form for it, where they can fill that out. But it could be on a piece of paper. It can be just in the form of a letter, as long as it says those basic things in it, right? So the form is called a, let's see, what's it called here? It's called a VA 21-10210. 21-10210. I'll put a link in the description so you can pull down a copy of that if you want to use that. Now, the question at that point then would be, who is qualified to write a buddy letter? Well, as we mentioned, anybody who served with you, who witnessed or experienced you in your original claim, like you said, okay, I suffered from migraines while I was in the military. They say, yeah, that's what happened. I saw the guy. He had these horrible headaches that sound like a migraine to me, and he had to put his head down, and he couldn't. He didn't make it to roll call, and first sergeant got mad at him. Whatever. So that's a person who can definitely write a buddy letter, but it can be anybody. It could be a civilian. Somebody that you knew, maybe you had a roommate off base, or a friend that you used to meet up with after work to go out and have some beers, but sometimes you couldn't because you had these horrible headaches, these migraines, and you told your buddy about it, and they remember it, and they can write that, right? Same thing. So the fact that they did or didn't serve with you, that's immaterial. We call it a buddy letter. It could be anybody. It could be a spouse. Maybe you were married at that time, and if you were married, if your spouse is willing to write a letter saying basically exactly the same thing, that's a buddy letter too. So anybody, any lay person can make a lay statement, a buddy letter statement, right? And again, those can be very, very powerful in support of your claim, especially if you don't have any other evidence. So you might want to do the best that you can. Now, some people have told me, well, I don't know where my buddies are anymore. We all lost touch a long time ago. And believe me, I get that. But, sometimes there are ways you can reach out and find some of those people. I found a lot of my old Marine Corps buddies on Facebook. So that's been a gold mine for me, right? As far as like just hooking up with my old pals, right? So people I served with, I found them on Facebook. I've also found a few on a website called Together We Served, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. That's a great place to find people from your unit at the time that you were in the service in active duty. So that's a good place as well. There are other places that you can try, and sometimes different units have reunion groups and special web pages and things like that. Rangers and Navy SEALs and people like that are great at, keeping in touch and having that sort of thing. So, if you're in that category, you can certainly look into that. In any case, do the best you can. Find those old friends, those old buddies, reconnect. And of course, ask them to tell the truth, ask them to be honest, but their statements about what they saw and what they heard and what they experienced at the time you were serving can be very, very useful in establishing your in-service event. Okay, so here's an example of a buddy letter. I'm just going to read this. Okay, I've got this on my tablet here. I served with James Smith in the U.S. Army, 1st Infantry Division, from January 1970 to December 1971. We were stationed together in Quan Loi. In March 1970, I witnessed him fall from the back of a deuce-and-a-half truck during unloading. He hurt his back badly and had to rest for several days. I remember him complaining about the pain after that event for the rest of our deployment. Boom. Sign it, date it, timestamp. That has all the information necessary that the VA can consider as information in lieu of the actual medical report, because maybe you didn't go to sick call and you did not get an actual entry into your service treatment records that you fell off a truck because, you took some Ranger candy and you just got over it. But now it's back again and it's still bothering you and you want to establish that in-service event. A buddy letter can be extremely helpful for that. So don't forget, if you can get a buddy letter to add to your claim, do that. I hope you found this helpful. I'm Bill. I am the Salty Old Marine. Please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and as always, have a great day.